Hi, welcome. This is You can't do this in the movies. This is some of my favorite sort of tricks and techniques about comics, and they're super exciting. They're what make comics unique, I think, and they're what helped me tell the story I needed to tell, and which helped it reach high numbers on the bestseller list. Um, and I'm just here to share with you some of what I love about this medium and what is so unique about it, and how you can make your own stories really fly and really sing and really be unique. So the first thing is sometimes called a polyptych. Scott McCloud terms it that. It's also sometimes called a pan. That's a movie term, so we won't use it too much here. And Scott McCloud's example of a polyptych is this person, it's himself, walking across the kitchen. So in this instance, in this example of the polyptych, the background doesn't change, but time is divided up here into four different panels, and the character moves across it. Um, this is a really interesting um, thing to use. You can use it in simple experiences like Scott is fixing the sandwich, or you can use it in really dynamic sequences like this. I'm pretty sure this is from Master of Kung Fu, and sometimes it's just to add a little bit of thrill to your reader as this character is leaping from ledge to ledge to ledge. Classic example is this extended giant bed from Little Nemo in Slumberland moving across this cityscape with that moon almost dead center right in between it. He would really play around with design and things like that. The classic, great example from Jaime Hernandez. Watch this character move across this party scene, or it's an outdoor market through here, and then confront these two characters here. If I told you more about this story, it's kind of mind blowing. I'll just leave it to you to find it. It's from I forget what it's from. Is he in Mexico? But I forget. I think it's called. I forget. It's in the PDF. You can also use it for mood. So here's one, two, three, four, five panels on one empty scene. So there's no characters moving through it. You're just getting sort of glimpses of this scene, one, two, and he's dividing up the text into these thoughts and mini paragraphs and sentences and things like that, and sort of just slowly, gently helps you pan, there's that word again, through the scene and through the thoughts and the captions. Terrific. This is from Seth. And here's a really dynamic example from Craig Thompson. This is from Blankets. Craig and Raina, the main characters, are in panel one. This giant party scene, which doesn't really move. I mean, they're all just partying, and they're this big mash of humanity. And then Raina and Craig appear again in panel three. They're sort of on top of it, but they're also in it too. You see, they're here. They're also here. That's a great example. You certainly can't do that in the movies, and there's no equivalent in prose. And it really makes you feel what the characters are feeling, and feel the location, and feel the mass of humanity. It's terrific. A lot of this owes a little bit of debt to Frank King. He created Gasoline Alley, and he would do these kinds of things over sometimes 12 panels, where you'd see a giant beach scene here, and the characters moving through the scene from the top left to the bottom right. And it usually would end in some joke or some mini little adventure. Here he is floating in the water. There's one where a fellow falls into a pit of wet cement at the end. Things like that. So the other one, the next one, is multi-figure panels. Sometimes it's called the game board. Um, it's similar, but there's no borders. So here again, Master of Kung Fu, he's leaping through the air. You're watching it like in motion, but you're also watching each panel. And this example, it's just designed to get you excited. It's designed to kind of like not believe your eyes. It's a great use of that to sort of help you want him to catch that bad guy or whatever. But there are other examples too. This is from a French cartoonist named Kilofer, and he's shooting a bow and arrow, but actually I think here the bow breaks, and so he's just moving through this forest trying to get up to this character in the upper right, and so it adds to that dense, branchy, leafy forest to see him sort of trying to make his way through it. It's almost like that crowd scene in that Craig Thompson we saw, except the character is here 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 times. Lauren Weinstein does something similar here. The characters literally are moving through this, what looks like this sort of cosmic game board, and then they sort of wind up at the end on this cliff, and then these sort of ghost-like deer appear. This is from the Goddess of War. It's too bizarre to sort of get into here, but you should check it out. She's kind of a genius, and she did some really interesting web comics after this that played around with scrolling in really interesting ways too. A lot of people say this might have started with paintings like this, nude descending a staircase. Maybe it did. Excuse me. So tangents and rolling compositions, they're sort of the same thing. I think Salvador Sam, a cartoonist in Canada, is a great cartoonist. I think he calls it rolling compositions. We've always called it tangents. Often they're, oops, let's turn that off. Often there are things you're not supposed to do. So if a cartoonist came and said, with a drawing like this, I'd say, you realize those horns are right behind that guy's head and it looks like he's got horns. This is a comedic photo, it's an internet meme, whatever. But this is the kind of thing we're playing with. And so you can see it used to nice effect here by Todd Webb. There's this girl talking to the moon, and here, especially in the right two panels, her legs and her arms reach in, and it's the same panel, yet it's two separate moments for sure, and it's even divided up by this third moment. But it's just an elegant way to let the reader play with the design of the page. You can get really intense with it. Peter Cooper is getting really intense with it here by letting the shoulders of this policeman also sort of begin to be the panel borders of the same policeman sort of accosting this fellow here. So there's these tangent lines here where the arms are. It's a really, really good example. And I forget what French artist this is, I'm afraid, but it's also in the PDF. This giraffe appears often in two different panels. The character it's so comedic here. He actually meets himself in certain panels, so it's kind of playing with like, is it a polyptych? Is it is it a pan? Is it a game board? Is it a bunch of tangents? It's a lot of things all at once, and he's really playing around with the medium in this way. And he's also even inserting this 9-panel cartoon in the middle after you watch all this giraffe stuff. And here's a really elegant example, excuse me, and I forget which French cartoonist this is, but there's a simple kind of a polyptych there while somebody's on the phone, but the important thing to watch is this character as they toss the phone out. There's this moment here where the phone is there and it's also there, and then but as you follow the phone you realize it's just been thrown out of this car. So what you're seeing actually is sort of a game boardy thing here where the phone bounces here, bounces here, bounces here, and then meets itself in the previous panel. So it's a tangent here. That's just so beautiful. And when readers come across that kind of thing, it activates their imagination a tiny bit more, and it really makes them want to keep reading, and it makes them curious about the world they're in, the world of lines, the world of characters, the world of the artist has created.